Exposure is the total amount of light allowed to strike the photographic medium, so film or an image sensor, during the process of taking a photo. Correct exposure can be defined as an exposure that achieves the effect the photographer wanted. You may have a great idea or concept, and your shot may be composed perfectly, but if the exposure is not correct, the image will likely fail. Getting correct exposure control requires thought, consideration, and understanding. No matter which camera mode you're using, whether it be program, semi-automatic, or manual, you need to make sure that the subject is in the viewfinder and is positioned well in the shot. Check the outside edge, and you will see a meter indicator. If that needle or indicator is halfway between the plus and minus signs, the exposure should be correct. When taking an image with an automatic exposure mode, so that would be program, aperture, or shutter priority, you cannot adjust the exposure control. The camera will adjust the settings to try to ensure that you get the correct exposure. When taking an image in manual mode, the exposure control is completely up to you. You must first decide whether the shutter or the aperture is to be your main photographic tool. After choosing the function, you will then have to adjust the other function until the needle or indicator is halfway between the plus and minus signs, and this will help to ensure correct exposure. Following the rules for exposure modes, your chances of getting the correct exposure vary according to the subject matter. The camera metering systems have been designed for the amateur photographer who uses a camera on weekends, in sunny locations, with nice green grass and trees, blue skies, and white clouds. Generally, the photographic process does not involve anything more complicated than snapshot photography. If your intent is to take photographic images that are beyond snapshot images, then exposure control will help you succeed. First, you must decide which metering pattern will best suit your needs. There are three main types, and they all see the environment a little differently. Not one particular metering pattern is perfect for all situations, though most photographers will select the evaluative metering as it is considered the best all-round choice for most situations. The three metering choices are evaluative light meter, center weighted meter, and spot meter. The evaluative metering is a refined metering response. Evaluative metering covers most or all of the overall viewfinder image area with a series of metering compartments. Each of these cells is further broken down into smaller subcells to analyze lighting within that area. Using the ability to analyze areas within cells and averaging the results along with all of the other cells allows for more refined exposure control for the bright to dark contrast range in the scene. On some of the newer cameras, using evaluative metering systems, the meters are actually looking for extra bright or extra dark areas of the image. Since these areas fall outside the contrast range of normal exposure, that portion, the extra bright or dark, is canceled out of the overall exposure calculations. The idea is that these areas being overly bright or dark would taint the final results. Unfortunately, since the camera doesn't know what it is actually looking at, the meter could very well be canceling the very subject that you're trying to expose for in the first place. For example, a bright sun in a sunset. While these systems are certainly being refined with each new camera model, the net result at this point is that the meter does not know what it is looking at and therefore cannot be trusted to always make a proper determination as to how to expose that scene. Further adjustments of the metered values must be necessary for correct exposure of the subjects. This is the metering pattern of choice for most photographers. It's very good at determining proper exposure in a majority of situations. Center weighted metering is one of the more common styles of light meters built into cameras today. Approximately 75% of the metering area is directed towards the center of the image, while 25% is distributed around the outside of the zone of center-weighted metering. Spot metering is limited to a single metering circle in the center of the frame, and usually with an angle of view somewhere between 12.5 degrees down to a 1 degree spot. This system allows you to take an exposure reading for a more defined target area.